Grammarly does more than catch errors. With Grammarly, you can...
Peggy 18.
You want a demo? Oh, we'll give you a demo. Ever since we first revealed Outriders last year, fans have asked when they might be able to get their hands on the game. And yes, we can confirm that there will be a public demo for Outriders coming February 25th, 2021. And this won't merely be a single quest or a 30-minute snippet. Nope, this demo will feature the entire opening chapter of Outriders, no holds barred. It is huge, with around 3 hours of gameplay and brimming with content and things to do that will give you a great idea of what the full game has to offer.
Almost looks like home.
That's what worries me.
As if you needed any further persuading, here are 10 reasons why you need to play the Outriders demo.
Hope you all brought your galoshes.
Number 1. Find your class. All 4 classes in the game, Trickster, Pyromancer, Devastator and Technomancer, will be available for you to play through the demo with to experiment and find your perfect class. Will you be a tank pyro or a DPS devastator? Mix and match abilities, give them a test run and find what suits you. And there are hours of gameplay to be had by putting all the classes through their paces. Once you finish with the Technomancer, for example, why not go back and see what the Trickster has to offer? You'll need to pick a class before playing co-op, which brings us on to number 2, multiplayer. This is the first time you'll not only be able to hop into the world of Enoch, but with the help of your friends too. Outriders supports up to a 3-player team to tackle missions, explore the world, and progress through the story together. You can find a matchmaking terminal in your camp if you're looking for squad mates. But don't worry, if you jump into a lobby in which a player is further ahead in the story than you, the game will warn you before you fully join, to avoid any spoilers. More info on matchmaking and online play can be found in episodes 2 and 3 of the Outriders broadcast, so check those out if you haven't already. Number 3. Crossplay. Following on from multiplayer is that the demo will support a complete cross-play experience. This lets you play the demo with your friends and other players no matter what system they're on. The demo will have crossplay turned off by default as it's still a beta version, but just head over to the options, switch it on, and you'll be good to go. PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Steam on PC. No matter your preferred platform, you can play Outriders together. Number 4. Transfer your progress. If you try out the demo and decide to go all in for the full game, you won't lose your progress so far and can transfer it across. This even includes if you play the demo on current gen and then buy the full Outriders experience on next gen, as players will receive a free upgrade to PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S versions. Don't say we never give you nothing. Number 5. An epic journey. The Outriders demo showcases the prologue of the game, which introduces the entire story. This is a true RPG at its core.
Alright, tell me the truth. You think the ECA's thought this whole plan through?
A mystery hides at its center. Where is this strange signal coming from? What does it mean? The demo will give you a sample of the epic journey you're about to undertake. Number 6. Side quests. We won't restrict you to just the main campaign in the demo. It's swarming with side quests, which are replayable and will adapt loot and enemy skill to your current character level. Feel free to take on other missions from NPCs and really dig into the layers of this environment and its inhabitants.
What happened here?
What does it fucking look like? We got mutilated.
Side quests won't all be unlocked immediately though. Certain ones have criteria to meet before you can tackle them,
Good to see you again.
with some only becoming available once you've defeated the Solar Tower boss. See if you manage to find and complete them all. Number 7. Weapons. Shooting is interwoven in the DNA of People Can Fly as a studio, with gunplay classics like Bulletstorm, Gears of War Judgment, and Painkiller. Outriders is a continuation of satisfying shooting. You might notice that you can dismantle weapons that don't take your fancy in exchange for parts. Also, you may well come across ore deposits throughout the demo. These both relate to the expansive modding you can unlock later on in your journey within the full game. Remember, saves are transferred within the same ecosystem, so feel free to mine to your heart's content and have that loot handy for the full Outriders experience. More info on modding can be found on the Outriders YouTube channel. So give the weapons a go, whether you're the up close and personal type or prefer to pick off from afar. Number 8. Powers. But combat isn't all about the guns. Oh no. The anomaly storms on Enoch have granted you unique powers, evolving you into a species called Altered. As you progress, you'll unlock more and more abilities that are exclusive to each of the 4 classes. From scorching waves of flames, to bending time and space, to summoning up an army of aiding assault weapons, to shoving a stone spike through your enemy's spine. Yeah, you get the idea. Powers are prevalent in the Outriders demo, and cooldowns are minuscule. Now, you won't have access to all 8 powers within the demo. You'll unlock the first 4, with the latter half coming later in the game. Try mixing up different combinations and see what outcomes you achieve. Number 9. Create your Outrider. A staple of RPGs, and let's face it, the menu you probably spend far too long on, is character creation. And did you know, you can change the look of your character on the fly within each camp. In the full game, this means you can evolve your look as you go. But even in the demo, there's a camp where you can switch things up. Fancy a new hairstyle, or adding a badass piercing? Get customizing. Number 10. Play aggressive. In Outriders, the scared hide and the hesitant die, because a key mechanic in the game is that you need to kill enemies to heal. With powers on tap and 4 in total that you can switch in and out within the demo, and yes, you can even hot swap them mid-gameplay, there's no shortage of carnage to create on the battlefield. Light them up, slice them in two, employ a turret barrage, or crush them into dust. Get out there, Outrider. Keep updated with all things Outriders on our social media channels. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube and join us on the road to launch. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on Enoch.
Stuck at home? Start selling your idle PC power while you sleep. Install nice.
What's going on, guys? Vulcan here, and unfortunately we got the news that Outriders has been delayed, but we do get a demo that lets us play the first few hours of the game on each class, and this progress carries over into the main game. Now, one thing people might not realize is that this demo isn't timed, so if you want to, you can actually play it all the way up until launch. Now, I'm going to make another video of how to maximize your time on the demo so that all of your characters are geared to the teeth and way ahead of the curve when the game launches on April first. Okay, so that's enough about what's coming. Let's get to the point of this video, and that is what class is best for you. So we have 4 to choose from, and if you're like me, you're torn between 2 or 3 or maybe even all 4. So we're going to cover all of the strengths and weaknesses for each class and what type of player might like them. So for those that don't know, Outriders has 4 classes: the Pyromancer, the Devastator, the Trickster, and the Technomancer. But before we dive into each class individually, I did want to talk about the classes as a whole and a lot of the mechanics that they share. So each class has its own healing mechanic, because in Outriders, you can't just pop a health potion or a med kit to recover your health. You have to do something specific. And some of these are going to work better for certain playstyles than others, so make sure to pay close attention. You don't want to pick a class that only recovers health in melee range if that isn't your playstyle. And in addition to healing, each class also has its own melee ability that applies a debuff to enemies. So for instance, the Pyromancer's melee will cause enemies to burn, while the Devastator's will cause them to bleed. So you can either build around these ailments or use them to help boost whatever build you're going for. The last thing I want to touch on is class trees. So we're going to be covering what each tree specializes in for each class, but for the most part, classes are not going to limit your ability to specialize in certain weapon types. And I've gotten a few DMs with folks asking, what class is best for snipers or shotguns? And honestly, there are multiple ways to boost those weapons, so don't worry about it too much. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, let's start our deep dive into the classes. The first one up is the Pyromancer. And as a Pyromancer, you're going to be able to manipulate explosions that clear hordes of enemies and use infernos to engulf anything in your path. Now this class plays best from medium range because they lack the mobility of a Trickster and the toughness of a Devastator, but they offer a great tool set so they can be deadly from behind cover or in the open. Now, who is this class for? So the Pyromancer is perfect for those players who love AoE builds or taking on groups of enemies. Lots of their skills are built around dealing large amounts of damage around target enemies or in an area around the player. And they also have a decent amount of crowd control skills, which afflict enemies with Ash, and that causes them to freeze in place momentarily, which allow you to set up pretty decent combos. So one of my favorite things about the Pyromancer is their ability to push enemies out of cover with their thermal bomb skill, which ends up placing a bomb on an enemy, and if they die, they'll explode, dealing huge damage to everything around them, and also marking them for healing, which we'll cover later. And the Pyromancer's melee skill is all about burning cleaves and AoE. So when you melee while you're running or standing still, you're going to be able to strike all enemies in a cone in front of you, inflicting damage and applying a burn to them. But if you're sprinting and you melee, you'll actually jump forward and smash the ground, dealing AoE damage and inflicting burn on anything in a small radius around you. And when it comes to healing, the Pyromancer recovers health by marking enemies with their skills. And if you have any marked enemies that you kill, you're going to regain a portion of your health. So the best way to do this is to mark a whole slew of enemies and then nuke them all at once to gain massive chunks of health back. Remember we talked about that thermal bomb skill? If you're in danger, you can hide behind cover, use thermal bomb, it'll go underneath the ground, afflict an enemy, you can kill them, they'll explode, killing them, maybe killing everything around them, and if not, then it'll mark them. Then you can easily clean up the mess and recover big chunks of health. So the Pyromancer has 3 skill trees that specialize in different things. The first one is the Ashbreaker, which gives large damage boosts against marked enemies, meaning you're going to do more damage to any enemies damaged by your skills, and because you're killing things more quickly, you're going to have a steady stream of healing. This tree seems to work out really well for those who like combo-based gameplay or to play solo. Then you have the Firestorm, and this one boosts all your skill damage. So not much to say here. If you like to light things on fire or blow things up more than shooting, then this one's going to let you do that more often. The last one is the Tempest, and this one gives lots of nodes to boost your maximum health and reduce your damage. Perfect for those people who like a tankier playstyle. Now honestly, this would be awesome for a shotgun build. This thing would take advantage of some of the skills that function in close range around the player to set up some big combos. And this tree also has a major node called Phoenix Nestling, and it's a life save. So if you were to take fatal damage, instead you're going to heal up to 50%, and this is perfect for those people who really like the old school Sunsinger and Destiny, or like those life save mechanics to give you a second chance. So that wraps up for our first class, the Pyromancer. Now let's talk about the jack of all trades, the Technomancer. So the Technomancer has the ability to create turrets and heavy weapons out of thin air, and you can freeze and poison enemies while while healing and supporting your allies. And this class excels at long-range combat, but it is more squishy than other classes, and because of that, you're going to spend more time in cover. But luckily, the Technomancer's skills are built with that in mind, so you can cast them from behind cover, which is nice. This class is also the most versatile of all the classes and really offers something for every type of player. So really, who is this class for besides everyone? So the Technomancer is perfect for those people who like to fill a variety of roles in their squad. If you like playing the healer, fantastic. This class has the only healing skill in the game. If you like summoner classes, then the Technomancer is right up your alley because you are able to summon turrets, gadgets, ordnance, all of these things that you can control and build around. And if you're someone who really likes to snipe, this class has a ton of skill nodes to build around, boosting sniper damage, which lets you clear battlefields for your group. Now the Technomancer also has some really strong crowd control skills like Cold Snap, which freezes everything around you and in front of you, which allows you to set up some really cool combos. Now one of my favorite things about the Technomancer is a skill called Tools of Destruction, and this can either summon a heavy machine gun or a rocket launcher depending on whether you press or hold this skill. So the rocket launcher is great at clearing groups of enemies. You got 3 shots and you can really kind of wipe a lot of things out, and the machine gun is perfect for single target damage. When it comes to meleeing, the Technomancer's melee skill is great for crowd control because it freezes any enemy that it hits. And if you melee while you're running or standing still, then you're going to strike all enemies in a cone in front of you, freezing them in place. If you're sprinting in your melee, then you're going to jump forward, smash the ground, deal AoE damage, and freeze everything in a small radius around you. And the nice thing is, if you take a specific node in the Demolisher tree, you can inflict poison on everything you hit, making for a really nasty combo where enemies are frozen in place and taking ticking poison damage, which makes your job easier because they have less health. So when it comes to healing, the Technomancer has the most versatile one in my opinion. Whenever you deal damage, you're going to regain a small amount of damage back as health. Basically, it's vampirism. So if you use that Tools of Destruction skill that I just talked about, and you summon a machine gun and just lay into a boss with all 200 rounds that you have, you can face tank just about anything. Unless you get hit with a lethal mechanic, you're going to basically be capped off the entire time. And when I got to play this class during my demo, I really liked pulling aggro for my team and just soaking damage while they burn the boss down. And it really felt good to be like in the line of fire rather than hiding behind cover, which I had done for the first half of the demo. So it was just a big kind of playstyle shift that felt really good, and the Technomancer enabling that type of shift. So the Technomancer's skill trees, they're incredibly varied, and they offer some great flexibility for each type of player. So the first up is Pestilence. Now this tree is all about increasing damage with decay skills like a poison turret and your gun damage. So if you like assault rifles or snipers, then this is your tree. Next up is the Tech Shaman. Now this branch focuses on increasing your healing and boosting your indirect damage with things like turret and freeze gadgets. It also has a signature passive that increases all your damage done by 40% when you use a gadget, and if you happen to die during this effect, you're instead returned to 50% health and given a second chance. So if you're someone who really likes a summoner style play, the Tech Shaman is definitely for you. This is going to boost all of your turret damage, your gadget damage, and give you a nice safety cushion with that second chance ability. And lastly is the Demolisher, and this one is a jack of all trades. It gives a handful of bonuses whenever you use gadgets, and it'll boost your toxic damage. Now this is the tree I specialized in during my demo, and it felt like it was perfect for solo players. I felt like I could handle just about anything, and I was always prepared for any sort of situation. So if you're not sure what to play, I would highly recommend Demolisher, and then you can always respec and go from there, but this one will definitely let you get a taste of the full Technomancer class. So that wraps up the Technomancer. Let's move on to the Trickster. Now the Trickster is all about high burst damage, hit and run gameplay, and manipulating time to keep enemies controlled. This class has the most mobility with a skill called Hunt the Prey, which allows you to teleport all over the battlefield. And the Trickster works best in close range by dropping an AoE that slows down time and then unleashing huge amounts of damage on enemies while they're slowed. Now the one unique thing about the Trickster is that you passively gain an energy shield as you deal damage. This gives you a buffer in front of your health pool and increases your survivability, and no other class generates this without mods. So who is this class for? So the Trickster is perfect for players who like rogue classes and they want to prioritize mobility over toughness. This class does come with a handful of interrupts and skills that slow enemies and high damage abilities. So honestly, it's perfect for solo players who have to go one-on-one with tough enemies every now and then, win because you can completely lock them out of their skills. And out of all of the classes, the Trickster has the highest amount of burst damage, and it's great for keeping enemies locked down. Now the Trickster's melee skill is all about slowing enemies and keeping them controlled. And when you melee while running or standing still, you're going to strike all enemies in a cone in front of you, inflicting damage and applying a slow effect to them. If you're sprinting and you melee, you'll leap forward and smash the ground, dealing AoE damage and slowing any enemies in a small radius around you. Now when it comes to healing, the Trickster has a more unique effect than the other classes. Any enemy that dies near you will recover your health. However, you'll also extend and increase the duration of your shield, giving you even more survivability. So the optimal way to recover health is to teleport in, use a skill like Temporal Slice, which slices all enemies in front of you and paralyzes them, and then that allows you to quickly clean them up and gain large chunks of health back. Now the Trickster's skill trees are built around enhancing specific aspects of the class and not necessarily about changing the way you play too much. So first up we have the Master of Space. This increases shotgun and SMG damage when you use movement skills and increases your damage while moving. Beyond that is the Harbinger. This is the tank path for the Trickster, and this branch is all about increasing damage mitigation and increasing your shield. So if you're someone who likes mitigation or dodge tanks, then this path might be one to check out because there's a lot of cool stuff packed in there. And lastly is the Assassin, and this branch focuses on skill damage and leeching health from skills. It's built around reducing the cooldown of teleports, so you can kind of zip all over the area, cleaving enemies and just destroying anything that runs in your path. So that wraps up the Trickster. Let's move on to our final class, the Devastator. Now the Devastator is all about defense and brutality. This class is built around coating your body in rock armor and then smashing enemies into the ground. And what this class lacks in mobility, it gains in armor and health. The Devastator works best in close range combat and uses skills to shatter enemies. So who's this class for? So the Devastator is perfect for people who like to play as a tank, but they don't really want to sacrifice much in terms of damage. This class has a large amount of stun and interrupt skills that can be used to shut bosses down and keep them from casting anything. So in short, the Devastator can be incredibly impactful in a group to control the flow of battle and maximize those damage windows for your Tricksters and your Pyromancers. Also, if you really like to play like Barbarians or Bruiser type classes, then the Devastator is built specifically for you. So the Devastator's melee skill inflicts anything it hits with a nasty bleed. And when you melee while running or standing still, you're going to strike all enemies in front of you in a cone, and if you're sprinting in melee, you'll leap forward and smash the ground, dealing AoE and applying that bleed to any enemies in a small radius around you. And now when it comes to healing, any enemy that dies near you will recover your health. And this works perfect for the Devastator since most of the time you're going to be right in the thick of it. Now the best way to recover large amounts of health is to cast Golem Skin, which is a skill that coats your entire body in rock armor, which reduces your damage taken, and then cast a skill like Gravity Leap, which causes you to leap into the air and smash down on groups of enemies, instantly killing them. Or you can use something like Impale to quickly put all groups of enemies on rock spikes and kill them more efficiently. Now the Devastator's skill trees vary greatly between defense and offense. So first up is the Vanquisher, and this branch is all about close range combat and increasing the amount of damage you can do with shotguns and assault rifles. Next up is the Warden. Now going down the Warden path is going to make you into the ultimate tank. So if you're a tank person, the Warden is one you're going to want to check out. You're going to have access to lots of different armor nodes to soak damage and reduce the cooldown for defense skills, and it gives some pretty cool passives like being able to strip armor rating off of defeated enemies and add it onto you, so basically armor stealing. And lastly is the Seismic Shifter. Now this one is all about increasing your damage over time, which tends to focus a lot on bleeds and skills like Impale, which deal damage the longer the enemy is on the spike. So if you're someone who really likes an Affliction Warlock or basically stacking up tons of debuffs on enemies and increasing all of your debuff and dot damage, the Seismic Shifter is definitely one for you. And that wraps up the Devastator. So now that we've been through a deep dive for each class and really explored what each one brings to the table, what are you guys going to main? And what are you guys going to make as an alt? I mentioned that I was torn between a couple of them. I'm really leaning towards Pyromancer and Technomancer, but honestly, I know I'm going to end up having all four to create content around them, builds and all that fun stuff. I have played the Technomancer, the Devastator, the Pyromancer, and I've spent a little bit of time on the Trickster, but overall, it's been great. They all have their own identity. I think you guys are really going to like them, but let's hear what you guys want to main in the comment section below. And that's all for this one, folks. So I will see you guys on the next Outriders video. Thank you so much for stopping by. This has been Vulcan, and I'll talk to you guys next time.
Grammarly.
Hey, what's going on guys, Grace here, welcome back to another Outriders video, and today I want to cover over 30 things you need to know about this game, especially since the free demo is going to go live a bit later today. It also launches on multiple platforms including the current and the next gen, as well as PC and Stadia, and I thought that this would be the perfect opportunity to just like blast you in with all of these details, because this is going to be a really cool experience. Now in this video I'm mainly going to focus on the gameplay side of things, so literally what you're going to see, do and play when you're going to get Outriders. As always, if you enjoy this at any point, it would be super awesome if you left a like on it, and let's jump right in. So first things first, as I've said previously, this is gonna be a single player, no live service, no microtransactions kind of game. You're going to get the complete package right from the very beginning, but it will have co-op. So the co-op is going to be drop in, drop out. There's even like a station to go in and queue for the co-op, and it's going to support up to 3 players maximum, so you and 2 more people. What's cool about this is that it's going to have completely full cross-play support right from the very beginning between all of the available platforms, including the current and the next gen, PC, Stadia, and yeah, you got pretty much the gist of it. Now, unlike most other games that also support co-op, this isn't going to have a centralized hub, but it is going to support multiple city hubs that do pretty much the same, though on a slightly smaller scale. So in these you can go ahead and take side missions, talk to NPCs, take bounties. You will even have access to vendor NPCs and gear upgrade stations, crafting, and a lot more. Which also brings us to the fact that you will also have a mobile kind of base yourself as well, which comes in the form of this really cool looking truck. So the truck is going to be your own personal moving encampment that comes equipped with its own crew and will give you access to basic things that you also get in the main cities. We will talk about that in just a little bit, but what's cool about this truck is that it can be upgraded and customized, and you will do so by simply speaking to its driver, or well, the driver that you employ in order to drive it for you around. Now the cool thing about this is that it also gives you access to gear upgrades thanks to this NPC, so you can upgrade your gear and increase its level. You will also gain access to a vendor in case you want to sell and buy items, and most important, you will gain access to a stash to deposit your access items, and get this, also swap them between your other characters in case you want to give a lower level character a really cool piece of item that you might have gotten at a higher level. Character customization is also possible at any time at any of your encampments, even after already finishing your character, so you can change the looks at any given point as long as you access that specific station. Now as far as the actual classes and how they play, I already made a video on that yesterday if you want to go ahead and check it out, but long story short, you will gain access to those 4 classes as I've said when the game launches. This includes the Trickster, the Devastator, Technomancer, and the Pyromancer. Now each of these 4 classes will gain up to 8 skills in total that you will be able to unlock as you level up. Now in the demo we only get access to 4 of these, since the maximum level in the demo is going to be 7 compared to level 30 as is going to be in the full game, but it's only going to be possible for you to equip 3 of these skills at any given time, which is going to let you create some really awesome combinations. Now this isn't going to be as big of a drawback as you might think, because you can quickly switch between these skills on the fly at any point in your menu, as long as your skills are not on a cooldown. But we've talked about skills, we've talked about classes and hubs, let's also talk a bit about difficulty and the loot. So starting with the difficulty, the way the game handles it is through something called the world tiers, of which there's going to be 15 in total. You will unlock new world tiers as you kill enemies, complete content, and survive in your current world tier. Now the thing is that it's going to also increase difficulty, so this includes enemies' HP, armor, and damage, but at the same time it also increases the level and quality of your rewards. That's why you're going to see bonuses like plus 200% drop chance or plus plus 100% rarity increase for the items that drop. Dying unfortunately will make you lose world tier XP, but it's only going to be slightly, so that you will never be in an inappropriate world tier for you unless you get the proper gear for that. This also brings us to the second type of difficulty scale up, which is going to be the party difficulty. And on top of the world tiers, enemies can also
the new Samsung Galaxy S21.
This looks different.
It is.
Show me.
Scale up depending how many people are playing with you at any given time. So obviously if you go in solo, enemies are going to be scaled to only one player, while if you're going with a full party of people, it's going to scale up to 3 people. Now on the subject of loot is where things become interesting, because loot is definitely one of the strong points of this game, as you're going to get a ton of really awesome unique ways to take down enemies and customize your character. So when it comes to loot, here is what you should expect. First of all, you get the familiar stuff like loot rarities. You can get items from green commons all the way up to legendary quality that also have some of the best stats and even more so abilities that we will talk about in just a little bit. With one single exception in terms of content, enemies will get a chance at dropping loot for you, but again I will mention that exception a bit later on in the video. Throughout all of this, you also have an auto loot feature that will prevent you from missing out on any possible drops in case you did not pick these up. Now as far as the actual items go, you get 2 types of these. So first of all, we have the armors with the headpieces, the chest, leg, arms and feet, and then you also get 3 weapon slots to utilize at any given time. All of the weapons and armor will have a primary stat, so this is either going to be firepower for weapons or armor rating for armor, but they can also get something called mods, which I will explain in just a little bit because these are the ones that are very interesting. These are passive abilities. There's over 350 in total between armors and weapons in the game, and you can combine them for some really amazing results. Which brings us to the next point, and that is of crafting, which we'll probably spend a lot of time into to improve items rarity, raise its attributes, mod the gear, swap variants, and also level them up. So you can do all of this within the crafting station menu. Now I will cover what the other things do in just a little bit, but I want to start with the ability to swap mods, because as I've said, mods are a very important part of your gear upgrade. As I've said, these are passive abilities that can completely change or even alter the way your weapon, your armor, or even your class abilities will work, to the point that they can even give you new effects that your class might not even have access to otherwise. Like let's say for example you're playing as a pyromancer and you would definitely love to have a shield that only the Devastator can use. There is a weapon for that, and there's many more other examples in there too. So you can unlock these new mods by simply finding pieces of gear like armors and weapons with these mods available on them. And since you're going to get a ton of doubles for any of these items, simply dismantling these items will grant you those mods, and you will be able to permanently unlock them and utilize them in different crafting menus. I already mentioned one of my favorite combinations previously, but yeah, combining a weapon that already has a lightning effect on it with a mod that freezes enemies at the same time will give you the possibility to both freeze and shock an enemy at the very same time with the same weapon, and there's a ton of other variants in there too. Now as far as the other crafting improvements, here it goes. Improve rarity is going to let you improve the primary stat of any item as long as it's not of epic or legendary quality, so you can do this with rare items, but this is going to increase the firepower for your weapons and the armor for your armors. There's also the swap variant, which is going to change your weapon fire type and behavior during combat. Of course, as you would expect, every type of weapon will have different possible fire types to swap between, but you will be able to unlock these only as you level up. Which also brings us to the final one. Leveling up a weapon or item is possible, and you will be able to increase one level at a time, which also further increases its primary stats like the firepower and the armor rating. Which also brings us to the final point on the list, end game content. As I've said, it comes in the form of expeditions. So after after finishing the main storyline, you will unlock a brand new camp, and in this camp you will find an expedition map that gives you access to these expeditions, as I've said. Now, what is so cool about these expeditions is the fact that they are completely new content after you finish the main campaign, as in it's not going to recycle anything from the old content whatsoever, and Outriders team has assured us that these are big handcrafted areas with their own unique storylines and are designed to be challenging but also equally rewarding. Among other things, of course, they will provide all of these cool challenges and rewards, but they will also unlock challenge tiers that will further give you a ton of benefits but also higher difficulties. Now, these challenge tiers act very similar to the world tiers in the regular content, as they increase difficulty and rewards, but in this case they only affect the expedition levels. At the same time, as you play through these challenge tiers, not only will you unlock the next challenge tier up to the maximum of 15, but you will also unlock the next expedition area by doing this, also up to the maximum of 15. So the last one in the sequence is going to be that Eye of the Storm, which is supposedly going to be the most challenging and probably the most rewarding as well. Now, the thing about these challenge tiers is that the faster you complete an expedition, the better the rewards are going to be. But since you do unlock more of these up to 15, you can choose how high you want to go on these tiers to provide way better rewards but also increase that challenge by a significant margin. So just to give you an example, if you're playing an expedition at the maximum challenge tier, this will scale enemies and, well, drops 20 levels over your current maximum level cap. So your level cap is going to be 30 for your character, but you can get items and even equip them for as far as level 50. But also the enemies will be level 50, which means they're going to be pretty difficult. Of course, as you would expect, if you can't handle a certain challenge tier, you can always tune it down or increase it in case you want an even bigger challenge, as long as you've unlocked the next one in the sequence. This also brings us to the final piece of the puzzle: what happens with the loot in this case. As I've said, this is the only piece of content where enemies don't directly drop any loot, but instead they will drop it, well, at the end of it, in the form of this big chest that you get to open. Of course, if you do happen to die before finishing that, you're not going to be penalized and you're still going to get loot, but only the loot that you got up until the point of you dying. So if you defeated enemies, you're going to get some loot, assuming that they would have dropped them otherwise. But this is it, of course, with about 30 or so things you need to know about Outriders. Of course, there's a lot more that we will cover in the upcoming days and weeks, so if you want to stay tuned for that, definitely leave a like on this video, subscribe and activate that notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Wanted.
Your idea is waiting to be seen. GoDaddy Websites Plus Marketing has everything you need to put it on display. Create a beautiful website that works for you. Get going with ready-to-launch templates that are tailored to you.
So today, guys, I bring you all the details on the Outriders demo if you plan on playing this game, which is the next game in the looter shooter genre. How's it going, guys? My name's DPJ, and if you enjoyed this video, leaving a like really helps out, and if you like what I see and want to see more Outriders, be sure to subscribe. So we have all the details you need to know on this demo, so let's get into it. So this will be a demo and not a beta, so expect it to feel quite polished. It is entirely free, so no purchase or pre-order of the game is required. You can play this completely 100% free. The demo will release within the following times, as you can see by this image on screen now. UK time is 5 PM on the 25th of February, which is next week from this video going live. But if your area or country isn't on this map, I'm pretty certain you can use Google to figure out exactly when the demo will release within your area. The demo will be available on the following platforms: PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox One X, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, basically the whole line. PC via Steam and streaming it via Nvidia GeForce Now. The download size for the demo will be a minimum of 24GB on PC, possibly more after decompression. On consoles it will be a minimum of 22GB, possibly more after decompression. Preloading is not currently planned to be available for this demo, so when the demo does go live on the 25th, you'll have to download it from there. Crossplay will be available on the demo, people, but it will be within that beta form and will need to be manually enabled via your settings in game. Also, there is no time limit for you on how long you can play the demo, neither is there any time frame for you jumping onto the demo. You can access the demo from the 25th of February up until the launch of the game on April 1st. The demo includes the game's prologue and opening chapter. This means that gear and enemies you come across will be early game variants. The further you get into the full OUTRIDER story when the game drops on the 1st of April, the more twisted, exotic and powerful both gear and enemies will become. The demo runs up until the showdown with Garth, the first rival altered who may even be more dangerous than you. Some side missions unlock after defeating Garth, so you will be able to go back and explore the world. The demo includes all 4 classes, which are the Devastator, the Pyromancer, the Technomancer and the Trickster, and you also have 6 character slots. This means you can try out every class without needing to delete any characters, or you can have multiple of the same one. It's completely up to you. Your character levels are capped to a level 7. In the full game they go up to a level 30, weapons go up to a level 50. But within the demo, a level 7 is where that cap is, and this will allow you to earn your classes that 4th ability, and you'll be able to mix and match your active skills in the demo. Now there are 8 abilities in the full game, but within the demo we can only access 4. Also, being capped at a level 7 within the demo, this means you'll earn 2 skill points that you can apply to your skill tree. You will be able to see the entire skill tree, but you'll only be able to unlock a couple of points there. You can progress up to a World Tier 5. World Tiers are the dynamic difficulty system. At a level 5, your chance for higher rarity gear is increased, but the drop chance for legendary gear is still extremely low. So people, if you play this on a Tier 5 within the demo and you do get a legendary drop, consider yourself extremely lucky and go and put the lottery on. Resources within the demo will be capped to a certain amount, but to say a generous amount, in order to safeguard balancing for when you go into the main game when it releases. Resources are mainly used within the extensive crafting system, but can also be traded for better gear from the in-game armorers. The crafting system unlocks in the full game once you'll be on the demo content, but you can save your resources from the demo to use in that full game, because if you did not know, you will be able to transfer your progress from the demo to the main game upon its release. But you can only do this via the same platform account, i.e. PlayStation to PlayStation, Xbox to Xbox, Steam to Steam. Progress will not transfer between the demo on Steam and the full game on the Epic Store, neither the demo on Xbox and the full game on PlayStation, and vice versa. The demo will not include any trophies or achievements, but your in-game accolades will transfer along with your regular progress into the full game. You are also free to stream any part of the demo with no restrictions, but they say please note that there is a trailer at the end of the demo, and this trailer contains licensed music, and they recommend caution when streaming this section. A few other questions Outriders have answered on Twitter. If you play and finish the demo on a character, yes, the story within the main game will continue where you left off within the demo. There will also be a separate download for the full game. It doesn't automatically update the demo. There will also be no friendly fire within the demo or the full game, people. There is also no demo for the Stadia, as they state it isn't possible at this time, unfortunately. And guys, there we have it. And I hope this video helped you out if you're curious on information regarding the Outriders demo. This is a game I do plan on playing and covering. I may even stream the demo, we will see. But stay tuned for that. But guys, I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope it helped you out. If it did, leaving a like really helps me out. And hopefully people, I will see you on that next one.
As a gamer, you know how frustrating it can be when you experience a slow or inconsistent game connection.
Everyone wants something different from their looter shooters, and whether you're on Team PvP or Team PvE, there is at least one thing we can agree upon: the endgame. Raids and rifts, sieges, and strongholds, nothing matters if the endgame falls flat, which is why today we're going to unpack one of the most talked about things on the comments of our Outriders videos. Hey there friends, it's Kodiak here, back to break down Expeditions, the centerpiece of Outriders endgame, and talk about what you can expect as a player, and if that content meets the demand. We're just going to hit the ground running on this one. Look at any of your favorite looter shooters in the past decade and think about why it compelled you to keep playing. The answer may vary slightly, but I guarantee the gameplay loop was a big part of your experience. In Borderlands, across the various installments, the game had really engaging stories and varied side quests that got you invested in the world. It also included a loot system that showered you with fun and interesting rewards that could be utilized in numerous ways through the exciting build diversity that was possible in the game. Yes, we know that Borderlands 3 was a bit of a hot mess at launch, and that AAA greed started to seep in through the cracks, but all intents and purposes, Borderlands as a series is one of the gold standards. The latest game featured an endgame loop that people are still enjoying, and plenty of content creators are helping keep the game alive. The game now includes arena-style wave combat, time trials, and of course dungeons and raids. It's a good mix of content that still manages to attract tens of thousands of people every day across Steam and other platforms. Now when it comes to Warframe, they take a different approach, throwing a metric ton of content at you in various areas. After all, the game has been supported by the developers for forever at this point. With the 40 plus different frames, essentially the game's classes, there is always a new build or experience awaiting the player the moment they get bored of something. As a good friend of ours put it that has played Warframe forever, if there is a piece of content I'm not interested in or just don't want to do, I just go do something else. That level of flexibility is huge for players. Then we start to get into some rougher instances, but still quite popular. Destiny takes a more hardcore approach, with dungeons and raids being their main source of endgame content, often being difficult enough that the average player is either left out and never tries, or it takes them a significant time investment to learn mechanics and bring their skill level up to participate. When you manage to beat these experiences with a group, especially on a day one attempt, very few feelings of achievement come close. Players across the board come to expect a really fleshed out experience in this area and eagerly look forward to any possible chances at more of them. While these activities make for a really challenging portion of endgame content, these are very sparse in the grand scheme of the game, meaning the rest of the experience has to pick up for that slack, and that's where things fall apart. A lack of interesting new loot, recycled gear you've already collected seasons ago, and very little change to the content that has existed for years at this point, instead opting to reuse the same locations over and over. Couple that with a FOMO experience with cool cosmetics for your gear that once the season is over can rarely if ever be obtained again, begin to feel predatory, even if they are just cosmetics. Nobody wants cosmetics to expire, but they do just accept that they exist. Then there's something like Anthem, which we all know was a major failure and is even on the brink of being shut down for good. But ask anyone who played it and they will tell you the combat and overall mechanics were a blast. Flying around Iron Man style with your buddies and blowing things up is an experience no other game has yet to achieve at that level. It just lacks substance. Loot was drip-fed to the players and was frankly underwhelming when you obtained it. It had an extremely small amount of varied activities, leading you to repeat the same few things over and over, and at the end of the day, the game was absolutely non-existent. The sad end to the Anthem saga is a huge 2.0 update that fans, if there are any left, are still waiting for, and with news percolating about the game being shut down permanently, I think it's safe to say it's a done deal. If you look at most games' problems with their endgame loops, you'll often find that there are numerous other issues before it that build up to a boiling point for players. For instance, do the moment-to-moment beats during the main leveling period of the game teach you all the fundamental skills you need to be effective in the endgame content? Nothing feels worse than queuing into some endgame activity and players having absolutely no idea how to do a basic puzzle mechanic or something similar. Overall, anyone playing a looter shooter likely wants a couple key things. A challenge is probably the biggest one. Even if we get to exercise a giant power fantasy and become these unstoppable killing machines, we still want the enemies we face at that level to put up a fight. Now that doesn't mean just fill the health bars up to a ridiculous portion, but make the mechanics in these fights reflect a knowledge that is learned from your time playing. Knowing certain enemy weak points, needing specific loadouts or combos to deal damage, or even having dynamically changing elements to make each encounter in the game a little more unique each time. Sufficient class depth is another big one for a lot of players. The ability to respec skill points at any time for free is great, but if there really isn't a huge flexibility to spread out those points, it might end up being quite linear in terms of builds. If there are various classes in the game, you ideally want each of your party members to be unique in their playstyle, so each can change the flow of combat in their own way, and even provide unique solutions and gameplay moments in endgame content. Loot is another massive one. Even if you have a ton of loot showering you, you want it to overall feel useful. You don't want the weapons and gear you are grinding out at endgame to simply feel like the same thing you've used at the start, just a bit stronger. Even if you can't use each piece of loot you obtain directly, having it as a core element to progress the gear you want to use is key. Don't make it an absolute slog to make progress. Make the experience to get the loot challenging, but when you succeed, shower the player with opportunities to progress. Now I want to circle back to Outriders. We've done a fair bit of talking about other games, but we should focus on Outriders and whether or not the endgame loop will quench that thirst of hungry looter shooter fans. I do honestly think this is an unwinnable challenge for the team. On one hand, they've crafted 14 completely new experiences for players to explore, but the sad truth is there will of course be players that stampede through content and claim there isn't enough. It doesn't help that expeditions, the endgame content in the game, are time-based.
Hey gamer, got an expansive GPU? Pay it off in just a few months.
Time-based. Powering through these missions as fast as possible is literally the goal if you want to progress and reach that next challenge tier. That's a dangerous route to take because it encourages players to blaze through your content. Will these simply be on the level of Destiny Strikes that have very few mechanics at all, or will expeditions be a deeper experience? Judging by the limited footage we've seen during one of the dev showcases, we're encouraged by the blend of map interaction and puzzle elements, but without an unfettered look top to bottom of the content, it's incredibly hard to say. We know that the endgame matters. We've been around video games long enough to know that simple truth. We've seen a lot of people in the comments skeptical, and that's probably the right way to approach this. While encouraged by the 14 unique challenges, it's unclear if those opportunities will be rewarding enough to sustain a solid player base. It's something that's been on our mind for a while now, but will no doubt determine the fate of the game. Additions like a horde mode in an arena format or an endless tower type mode could also be great additions to the game to extend its endgame. It's also important to consider PvP, and I know this is a contentious issue with people on both sides claiming it's necessary or not, but it's a reality that could come to Outriders at some point. Obviously, we spent a lot of time talking about older games, but it's important to look back at the things that have worked and not worked in other titles. We try not to talk about the same thing in every single video, so check out our more informational content if you're still looking for the basic facts about Outriders. Honestly, guys, the Outriders endgame, also known as Expeditions, is everything, and you guys have not shied away from letting us know your thoughts. So leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about Outriders endgame loop. Is it valuable enough for you to buy the game? Do you see right through it? What are your thoughts about Outriders and the endgame? If you are interested in Outriders and want to follow us as we take on Enoch, how about you support the channel? Throw us a like, maybe hit that subscribe button, and honestly, what do you have to lose? It's completely free for you, and it really does help us out a ton. If you are planning on getting Outriders and want to team up with other friends, feel free to use our Discord. We have a link below. We just set up a brand new section for players interested in the game. We'll also be able to share tips, tricks, and of course, our latest videos. My name is Kodiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.
We created Dungeon Alchemist, an AI-powered map-making application that allows you to make awesome-looking maps.
Size of that thing. That's one of the quarry's old excavators? And I was here when it was being built. Took industrial printers 2 weeks to put the damn thing together. That beast could move mountains. Now look, what a tragedy.
Morgan mentioned the quarry we're heading toward was overrun. I take it we're gonna need to tread carefully?
It's probably filled up with mutated freaks by this point. We've been fighting over that goddamn hole in the ground since I can remember. But last time the insurgents took it back, Kurgan decided it wasn't worth any more of our time. We blasted the place and filled the road with mines to protect our flank.
The road's clear. What next?
That's our way to the quarry. You need to find a way to open the gate.
Will do.
We started talking about us both feeling like outsiders.
Oh, yeah.
America is a place where you don't have to look a certain way. You just have to have fidelity to a creed. That's what you sing about.
Our audience looked at us and saw the America that they wanted to believe in.
We're trying to figure out how do we feel whole and make the world around us feel whole.
the gate's controls.
Finally.
Jacob, the road's yours.
Bye.